Hello everyone, this is the first episode of Bad Decks Played Badly. I'm Alex and I'm here today to show you a deck I've been playing with, which I find rather fun. The reason I've made this channel is because I've noticed a lot of people tend to play the most optimal decks ever. They've got the best cards and there's just no real fun in it anymore. There's a lot of combo decks using the same cards and most green decks always use the same cards. So I thought, I'm just going to start using cards that I personally really enjoy and which are not really modern playable, but put them in decks which hopefully will make them work. This is my first one. It's actually built around my favourite card of all time, Assembled a Legion. So at the beginning of your upkeep, put a muster counter on Assembled a Legion, then create a 1/1 red and white soldier creature token with haste for each muster counter on Assembled a Legion. I like this card because once it gets going, they don't remove it. It is essentially an auto win card. Give it 5 turns. You've got chump blockers for days, and the longer it goes, the more advantage you're going to get. And a lot of decks just can't deal with this if this has been sat on the battlefield for a couple of turns. I will say my decks will be mainly budget related, purely because I just play with the cards I already own. I haven't really got the money to drop a lot of cash on the more expensive cards, so luckily my decks will be quite budget friendly, and if you want to upgrade them, I'm sure there are plenty of ideas you can have. If you've got any ideas that I can use to maybe improve the deck, maybe on a budget, please feel free to let me know in the comments, because that would be very, very helpful. Alright, well, I'll start just talking about the deck. As I said, Boros Enchantments. I know you can do green-white enchantments. I didn't bother with that. I know you get a lot of card advantage with green for playing enchantments, but I thought I'm going to keep it Boros and we'll just see how it goes. So, let's start with enchantments. For my 1 mana spells, I'm going to have Chain to the Rock. It's one advantage of playing Boros, is that you get to use this. I could use Path, but the more enchantments the better in this deck, really. So it's a good option. Just gets rid of a creature, changes it to one of your mountains. It can cause issues if there's a lot of land destruction, or they've got like Ghost Quarters, for example, which can get rid of it. But as far as just slowing down your opponent in the early game, it's really, really good. Faithless Looting. This is going to be my card draw engine for the most part. It's just probably the best card draw spell in red. You get the flashbacks, you get to use it twice. Just sifting through your deck, it's kind of what this deck really needs, and it is perfect for what we want it to do. Okay, 2 Journey to Nowheres. It's the same reason as Chain to Rocks, just get rid of creatures early on, just gets rid of anything. I've only got 2 in the deck. It could be 4 and maybe go down 2 Chain to the Rocks, but I personally didn't think I needed it. I think 6 removal spells for individual creatures is enough. I'm sure if you played this deck yourself, you could maybe, tinker around with this stuff, but I found that this works. Okay, and the 3, this is where it gets spicy. Luminarch Ascension. This never gets played in Modern, but this deck is perfect for it. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if you didn't lose life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Luminarch Ascension. Once you get 4 of them, for 2 mana, you can just get a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying at instant speed. Once you get to that point and you start churning out angels, there's not many decks that can beat that. The fun is getting it there. Okay, and just the 1 copy in the main deck of Rune Tailor. It's basically just catch-all against any combo decks or anything like that. We can tutor it out, and just any big creatures, for example, just something that we can't deal with what we've got. It's just nice to have a one-off silver bullet just to ruin, the decks that it would ruin, I guess, I've got 1 token copy of Impact Tremors. I probably could get away with not putting this in the main board, but it's nice to have it there. It's with Assembled a Legion, this can get out of control really, really quickly. If they've got a lot of chump blockers or lifelink or creatures or anything like that, it's good to go over their heads and goes directly to the face. It also gets around in snaring bridges and stuff like that. So it's nice to have 1 copy of it. So what actually you know, what can allow us to get to the late game? Because as you can see, Assembled Legion is, you know, 5 mana. It takes a while to get going. And this is the backbone of the deck here. Ghostly Prisons. Come down on turn 3. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So it gets to the point early on where it's, do I prefer to attack or play spells? Just that alone slows them down so much that it takes turns to come back from that. It really does just grind them to a halt. And in the late game, we should have more answers or a billion chump blockers because of Assembled Legion. It's just the deck for this enchantment. It's perfect. I've got 2 Idyllic Tutors just so I can tutor out pretty much any enchantment in the deck. It's good to have circumstantial removal. For example, let's say they play an enchantment, I need an Oblivion Ring. Just get it out. Just perfect for this deck. Oath of Gideon, this doesn't really have to be here. I just wanted to put one in because, as you can see here, I've got some Gideons. It's nice to, you know, because sometimes you will just need some chump blockers to last an extra turn or two, which is nice to have with Idyllic Tutor. You can just, you know, if you need to chump block just to stay alive, just tutor this out. That'll work nicely. Plus, having the extra loyalty counter on a Planeswalker is actually quite handy because Gideon, as you can see, is -4. You know, get +1/+1 for each creature you control. It's nice to be able to do that straight away, but still have Gideon alive to churn out tokens. So yeah, 2 copies of Oblivion Ring. It's just a catch-all. You know, we've got enchantments, artifacts, creatures, just anything. Just get rid of it. Perfect. Cast out 1 copy. The same reason. It's exactly the same, but it's nice to have an option to cycle if you don't need it. So I thought I'd put that in there. As I've already talked about, I've got my 4 copies of Gideons. These guys are another win con, other than Assembled Legion and Luminarch Ascension. 4 Gideons. I mean, a lot of decks, like, well, opponents, they'll see this on the other side, and even if you get rid of it quickly, it's still a bit of a problem. Like, it's never a fun card to play against. Just churn out creature after creature after creature. They have to kill it, and it's just great value. Especially with our deck as well. We don't really play many creatures. It's nice to be able to churn out stuff just to chump block and even attack. Right, 2 copies of Sphere of Safety. So this is like Ghostly Prison, but way better. It obviously, the reason it costs 5 is because it's practically broken once it's down. If you've got a copy or 2 of Ghostly Prison down, and then put a Sphere of Safety down on the battlefield, they are not attacking you. That's it. You have got all the time in the world. You can play for days without being hit. It really is perfect. I love this card, and it's one of the main reasons to play this deck as well. Okay, as I said, 4 Assembled Legions, my favourite card. Just love it. It's my main win con. It's probably worse than Gideon and the other win cons, but I just like the card, so I want to play it. It's pretty much the entire reason I made the deck. And then the 1 copy of Elspeth, Sun's Champion. The same with Gideon. It's just a good card. If they can't attack you, you can just create soldier after soldier after soldier and just completely swarm the battlefield. The -3 is really good as well. Destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. We don't have any creatures with power 4 or greater. All our tokens are going to be less. Except, I guess, our angel creatures. But by the time we're at that point, we're going to win anyway. The -7 is also good. Just +2 and flying to all creatures you control. You know, if you have Assembled Legion out and that, yeah, they're not winning. There's no way they can win. It's just a really fun deck. For the lands, this is where it gets really budget. I know I could get some fetch lands and some shock lands, but this is, I just don't own them. I do own some fetch and shock lands, but not in these colours, and I haven't really got the money to get any more. So if you do want to upgrade, this is a good place to start. I've just got 4 Clifftop Retreats, 1 Guy's Reach Sanitarium, because if you get empty-handed, it's nice to be able to sift through cards. 4 Ghost Quarters, just for Tron and land destruction, or just to punish any opponents that are going, you know, doing 4 colours or getting a bit greedy of their mana base. Inspiring Vantage, it's the same as Clifftop Retreat. It's just a budget land, 4 of them. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mountains, and the rest plains. It's very important to have mountains in this deck, purely because of Chain to the Rocks. It's probably another downside of having Chain to the Rocks, but I just like having a 1 mana removal spell. And yeah, not many people play it in Modern, and I really think they could. Well, let's go to the sideboard. Okay. So against burn, something that doesn't, have too many creatures that our ghostly prisons can stifle. Just 3 Nyx Fleece Rams. It's just perfect for that. We can tutor out because it's an enchantment creature, so we can tutor it. It's just very good against burn. I just like the card, and who doesn't like sheep, eh? Look at him. Look how lovely he looks. Okay, and 1 Spirit of the Labyrinth. It's an enchantment creature as well, so we can't tutor it out. Each player can't draw more than 1 card each turn, which is perfect against any sort of control decks or storm decks. It just stops them dead. They have to kill this guy just so their deck really works. With Nyx Fleece Ram, they're both creatures, and that's also a good thing about playing no creatures in the main deck, is that when you bring in these creatures in the second game, they've usually taken out all of their removal, so they tend to live, which is great. 1 copy of Stony Silence to tutor out, just against affinity and artifacts. Speaks for itself, very good card. Another copy of Rune Halo, just to take out any of the key pieces in a deck. They have, like, if they need a Primeval Titan to win, play that, you're fine. Nevermore, same reason, it's just a little bit more encompassing. Rather than having just protection, they can't even play it. That's perfect. Judgment Day, because destroying all creatures is very good against some decks, aggro and whatnot, and the ghostly prisons may not be able to do all the work by themselves. Another copy of Impact Tremors, just in case they do have ensnaring bridges, and they, most decks are going to side in all of their enchantment hate against this deck, so having another copy is quite handy in some scenarios. It's not going to come in very often, and to be honest, Impact Tremors in the main will probably be sided out more times than not, but sometimes when it is good, it will win you the game. 2 copies of Sweltering Suns, the same reason of Day of Judgment really, it's just sweep creatures away. Yeah, good. I know we could play Anger of the Gods here. I actually don't own them, so I've had to make do with my budget version of Sweltering Suns, but being able to cycle when you don't need it is very, very handy. Bit of spice here. Outpost Siege. You can play on dragons, so whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, Outpost Siege deals 1 damage to any target. We're never going to use that. This is purely here for card advantage against control. So at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card. It's purely against control, and I think it'll be quite useful. And here's 2 Relic of Progenitus. This is obviously here just for graveyard hate, any sort of, any graveyard decks. There's a lot of them running around in Modern at the moment. So, yeah, it's good to use. I know I could have used Rest in Peace. It's an enchantment. I could have tutored it. It's way better. But unfortunately, it's also way, way more expensive, and I just don't own it. I would like to own a few copies, because it's going to be the backbone of most sideboards in Modern, but I don't own it at this stage. But I'd recommend putting that in instead. And then a copy of Defense Grid. Everything we play is at sorcery speed, and this will just pretty much wreck control decks. Once you get this down, it just makes their life miserable. So yeah, it's kind of a deck. I hope you enjoyed this. As I said, it is my first video on the channel. So, if you have any comments or anything, or any improvements I can make, please feel free to tell me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy Boros Enchantments, and I'll let the games will follow. Enjoy.